Meanwhile, Stefanik took a break from Fox News over the weekend and appeared on NBC's Meet the Press. When asked about the people serving time for the January 6th insurrection, Stefanik called them hostages. Here's 7 News reporter Lexi Bruning.
Do you think that the people who stormed the Capitol should be held responsible to the full extent of the law?
I have concerns about the treatment of January 6th hostages.
January 6th hostages, a term being used by both Stefanik and former President Donald Trump to describe those who are serving time for storming the Capitol 3 years ago, as Congress convened to confirm the results of the 2020 presidential election. Following the appearance, the Lincoln Project, which describes itself as a pro-democracy organization, released a video and statement criticizing Stefanik's use of the word hostages to describe what the organization calls terrorists.
She not only is appealing to an audience of one, right, in Donald Trump, but she's actually using the same type of methodology that he engages in when he speaks. And part of that is not just copying his language, but it's copying his style.
SUNY Potsdam politics professor Jack McGuire says Stefanik has a lot going on when making these appearances.
She has some electoral ambitions on the national scene, and I think that's in part because her ability to really move anywhere else in the state of New York is at a dead end.
In response to the Lincoln Project's comments, Stefanik's senior advisor wrote the Congresswoman is, quote, widely praised for delivering an absolute masterclass on how to push back against the biased media. When asked if Stefanik will certify or vote to approve the results from the upcoming 2024 election, she said, quote, we will see if it is a legal and valid election. One last point from the interview, when asked if she would be Donald Trump's running mate this fall, she said she would be honored to serve on his administration in any capacity. Lexi Bruning, 7 News.